Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody. Christmas is coming early, especially if you're an elite billionaire PDF. It's a crazy time out there. It's a crazy time to be an American citizen or a citizen of the world. Obviously, you've heard the news. And obviously, you're all following it, and you've all seen a whole bunch of the ongoing reporting. And we are going to look at a lot of that reporting today. We're going to run through a lot of the breaking stuff as of this morning. Obviously, I don't normally do a stream on Tuesdays, but it just felt like a lot is going on, and probably a lot of you are sitting around at family gatherings or on your way to travel or stuff like that. I just felt like we wanted a little bit of hangout time to go over all this and just dig into the news, the conspiracies, the cover-up, and what are we being distracted from here? Because ultimately, I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned that too many people, particularly the pundits, particularly the alternative media, are falling into the trap of sensationalizing and left-righting and jumping on celebrity names and falling down this subtle hole of forgetting what it all means for America and for the world and for global politics and global control. Forgetting who Epstein really worked for and forgetting what we actually know about the Epstein case. That on top of the fact that we have a whole bunch of kind of sideliners hopping in that are offering their hot take from whatever niche they're in without anywhere near enough context to accurately understand the files that are being shown. And just kind of being like, oh my gosh, this famous person. Oh my gosh, photo of Michael Jackson. Oh my gosh, Bill Clinton. Oh, Trump. Oh, it's Clinton. Oh, it's Trump. Oh. Bro, calm the fuck down. It's all of them. It's all of them. It's the entire system. It's every government. It's the international cabal of bankers. It's the international corporatist cabal. It's all of them. This is the deep state, and they've been running the show for a long time. And for a long time, everyone was calling the journalists reporting on it crazy conspiracy theorists. Everyone was making fun of them. Everyone was saying that they had no idea what they're talking. It's unbelievable. You think that a bunch of PDFs are running the government? Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Is everything fucking crazy? Because no one wants to rewind and remember who it was that was calling everyone crazy that's now pretending like they're on the bandwagon and they're still missing the ball. They're still missing the point. It's all of them. It's Trump and it's Clinton. But it's not just those two. It's all of them. I would speculate, in my humble opinion, that probably it's every president in your damn lifetime. Not directly in Epstein's files, because some of them wanted services that he wasn't selling, and they went other places to procure them. But it's all of them. This is a system, and it is systemic. And that is why all of it's getting covered up to this level. All of it's getting washed away. Everyone's afraid for things to come out, and they are officially breaking the law as they slow roll the release. They're breaking the law in multiple ways, not just because they haven't released everything, but also because they are redacting people that they are legally not allowed to redact. And we have all the proof of that you could ever want. I'll go through a whole bunch of that today. So, real quick on the intro here, let me just give you a few snippets of what we're going to go through. We're going to go through about 1 trillion tabs of breaking news, crazy finds that people have found. We'll comment on a lot of it. Then a lot of it, actually, we're going to take over to web, and we are going to actually pull and source a whole bunch of those documents straight out of web, which is not ready for everyone yet, but your boy has been beta testing it, and oh boy, is it crushing these files. If you don't know what web is, I'll tell you all about it. We're going to try to release it here soon so that everyone can use it to dig through these files. And then we are also going to review a whole bunch of notes, documents, things that I've personally pulled out of the files. Yes, if you know what that is, then yeah, if you know, you know. We're going to look at what's redacted and what's not. We're going to look at evidence. Oh, sorry, that's where we were naming all the fucking people in the files, pulling out their names. We're going to look at evidence that will show you very clearly that they are just willy-nilly redacting people in this place but not that place, redacting men all over the place, redacting probably Johns, breaking the law overtly. And we are going to catch up on a whole bunch of reporting that will get more to the point of what's really going on here. That'll remind us of what we already know, what we've known for a long time. Because ultimately, what's getting lost in the noise, the sensationalism, the partisan bickering, is that we don't need the files. We already know what was going on, and we already know most of who was involved. Maybe not enough to convict them in a totally fair court of law that can't be bought, blackmailed, or sold. But we know. And it's not even just that we know. We just fucking know. We have ages of reporting from the likes of Whitney Webb. We have a whole slew of wonderful independent journalists that have been doing ongoing reporting on the issue. We know who Epstein worked for. We know who has the blackmail. And we know what it's doing in the political climate today. And it's all still out there. None of it has gone away. We're actually watching it do its work right now. Not necessarily exactly as they intended, but it's working nonetheless. So, our show is going to be long and meandering today. We're going to have a whole bunch of segments on all sorts of stuff. We're not going to hold ourselves to any set framework or schedule or anything here. Part of the point is we're just going to hang out and go through everything. And if we get distracted and go down a rabbit hole somewhere, we'll get distracted and go down a rabbit hole because there is information flying left and right. Just last night, I was in bed and my buddy texted me CoffeeZilla's new video right before I fell asleep. Like, yo, a new file just dropped. It's not supposed to be out. You can download it right now. Go to the link. I get up, I run up, I pull up this video, I watch it. I'm downloading the files. I spent all morning this morning loading those new files into web. And those new files, drop number 8, they have a lot of spice in them. I'm not entirely clear because now they are on the official DOJ website. And I'm not entirely clear if they were supposed to all go up as they are right now, but they're up. And they've got some stuff in them. And yeah. I'm not sure who's voting in the next election, but it's not going to be me. And after you see everything that's in the files, it might not be you either. Because it's all of them. So, that's our run of show for today. We're on YouTube and we're on Twitch, and thanks for being here. I am going to try to keep track of YouTube Super Chats, and I am going to try to spend some time hanging out in the Twitch chat later on near the end. I do have your shit up here, but I'm not going to get too distracted because we got a lot to go through. And we're just going to kind of hang out and run through everything piece by piece. And we're going to start right here with our boy James Lee. Perhaps the most disturbing document from the Epstein files. A limo driver alleged that Trump had R'd a young girl along with Epstein. The victim went to the police and told she had done good. Several months later, she was found with her head blown off.
There have been some crazy things that we have found in the Epstein files, but this right here might be the darkest. This is from a limo driver who had met Trump in the 1990s, and he alleges that Donald Trump raped a young girl along with Jeffrey Epstein. The victim was then encouraged to go to the police, to which she replied, quote, "I can't because they will kill me." The victim did eventually report it to the police, but she was found a while later with her, quote, head blown off, and the police officers on scene stated that there was no way it was a suicide, even though the coroner ruled it as such. Like, what the actual hell is going on here, and why are we not doing anything about it? Okay, we gotta let these guys know that this does not end until people, these gross, disgusting people, all go to jail. There have been some crazy...
I could think of some better places to send them than jail. I'm sure, chat, that you have some ideas. But real quick, I just want to tease you. On web real quick. Okay? So let's jump over to web here for a second. And, I'm going to have to actually pull it over like this so you can see the chat. So what I've done here is I've loaded all of the new drop number 8 that came out last night. That new drop is loaded into this tool that me and my friends built. Mostly my friends built. I just helped direct it. And what it is it's an AI tool that is limited to only analyzing the documents you want it to analyze, and then it has a whole bunch of complex sorting algorithms built in that it does crazy fucking work. And we'll tell you lots more about it another time. But suppose you get a document dump like the Epstein files, and you wanted to say, I heard there was testimony about from a limo driver about Trump abusing young girls. And it's going to look through only the documents you gave it. It's not going to hallucinate. It's not going to go out into the web. It's not going to make random shit up. It's just going to search through those files. And we'll probably come back and look, and you can ask it all kinds of analytical, logical things, and it will pull original sources out from those documents. And it's thinking about it. It's looking through it. So far, it's pulled out 120 different sources. And I'm going to let it type it out first, so that way it can finish typing, and then it will actually drop the sources in there for us so that we can view them in their original format. And we're just going to kind of test it right here to see if it can pull these out. And that was a fresh prompt, just a chat. It just had all the documents. It says, the documents I found is an FBI tipster report, file reference that, dated October 2021, not formal testimony or sworn deposition. This is a significant distinction. According to this report, a person, 3, told the FBI that he drove a limousine in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So this is the exact document that James Lee was referencing. It's 3 pages long, and we just pulled it out. And it can summarize it. And then if I wanted, I could start asking more questions like, are there any other documents that reference Trump in the files? Are there any links to Israel in the files? Are there any other reports of abuse or violence in the files? How many times is this person mentioned? What dates are these? When are these emails happening? I heard this one crazy thing is in there. Is it there? All sorts of stuff. Because there's a lot of people making great viewers that let you like scroll through the images. We'll look at some of those that let you like look at his emails as though you were him, that let you kind of search by name, but not exactly. This is what we need, is we need people to be able to interact with them in a far richer way, to ask questions, to access the primary sources in a really easy way to navigate that is interactive, kind of like a ChatGPT, but like way fucking smarter. And it won't hallucinate. So we'll come back to that later on. I just wanted to tease that for a second here. But now what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the things that people have dug up here. CoffeeZilla made this drop. We'll probably watch that a little later. I don't think he has copyright music in it. You know what? Actually, we'll watch it right now.
The FBI just accidentally released 11,000 Jeffrey Epstein files that they hadn't publicly put out yet, but we got access to them. And at the end of
Coffee is crazy loud this morning. Holy shit, bro.
this
Calm
video,
down.
I'm going to show you how to access them. Here's what that looks like. It's volume 8 of the files, but you can see right now that they've only released 7 data sets. And
as of this morning, the 8th data set is on the official DOJ website, and you can go and download it for yourself. And it's just like the other ones where it's just a shitload of PDF files, although it's not as bad as the old ones.
The guys at Jmail and the guys at DropSite, we've been investigating this. I've partnered with them to kind of look at some of these files. And they got access to volume 8 early. You would just type it in the URL. It wasn't like indexable on search, but you could just type in the specific URL and it would just come up.
So literally, they were in volume 7 and they just said, I wonder if there's another volume out there. They just deleted the 7 and put in the 8, and voila. It was there, even though the DOJ didn't want it to be yet because it wasn't published live, but it was indexed, and they got to it. That's some journalisming right there, boys.
You could download the entire zip file, and that's what we did. We've been looking through it. I want to go over some of it because I believe some of what we've seen directly contradicts the FBI's earlier statement that, there's no evidence or we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. That's what
A total fucking lie. A complete and total fucking lie. Okay? We all know that that's a lie. I mean, I could give you like 10 different people to go and indict right now. Not to mention like 100 other people to investigate, to subpoena, to look at their phones, their records, to dig up their backyards, to snoop around on their yachts, underneath their hotels.
they told us, right? They said, we've already looked through the files. You don't need to see the files back in July. Of course, all the pressure has made them now start releasing some of this stuff. And we believe that this was slated for release, but remember, they weren't going to release all the files yet.
If you're not up to speed on the story, Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna spearheaded a motion in Congress to force the release of the files. They kind of bypassed certain formalities and used a special congressional format that got enough votes, and then mandated by law the release of the files by, what was it, yesterday, I think? Day before? I guess it was a couple days ago now. And the government is late. They are breaking the law by being late. And it mandated by law that they could only redact victims, and they had to give reasons for redactions. And they're breaking the law on that one too, and we'll go over that later. But that is why these are all coming out now. And let's just say that the big boys never really wanted this to happen. I don't think. But they're going to do their best to spin it, their best to play it, and their best to benefit from it.
They had to hold some back. Well, we believe that these 11,000 files are part of what they held back, because clearly they aren't out, and clearly they were ready, because a lot of these are redacted. I mean, already you can see we found several files that were once again over 100 pages of redacted information. So it was all ready to be released. It's unclear why it wasn't, but
Why is the actions of a lone P file a national security secret? Are you telling me that every single name on those pages is a victim's name? It's just a whole page of victim names. That's all it is? Or is it state secrets because we're talking about intelligence assets and our greatest ally? Right? Like, let's do the math. Hundreds of pages of victims or hundreds of pages of the deep state runs the world? You pick.
A caveat before we get into the material that this is a breaking story, and as such, I'm sure there's going to be some pieces of information that we are interpreting or trying to interpret live, and because of that, I want to warn you to withhold your judgment on some of this stuff until we get more evidence. I'm sure the president's going to be asked about some of this stuff. I'm sure Todd Blanche, Pam Bondi, they're going to get asked about this because it is extremely damning, I think, what we see in some of this. Specifically, I want to draw your attention immediately to the 10 co-conspirators that are mentioned in some of these emails in 2019. Now, this is just alarming stuff because prior to this, remember...
I get what he's saying. He's reporting on it sort of like for the normies from the mainstream narrative. It's like there was no co-conspirators and now there's 10 co-conspirators. Yeah, bro, that's not alarming at all. There's way more than 10 co-conspirators. Are you kidding me? This is a whole fucking network. The intelligence agencies are implicated. Alex Acosta told us this years ago. Years and years and years ago. I was told he was intelligence and to leave him alone. And the number of people that have been implicated in this ever since is astronomical. And they're all just still walking around. From the women that helped recruit and groom and abuse these young girls, to the traffickers and the pimps that recruited and moved them around, the pilots, the security guards, the Johns that were receiving services and giving up blackmail on the other end of it, the whole Israeli network, and the Jewish donor networks that surrounded Epstein, put him into place and provided communications back and forth with whoever Ehud Barak worked for. Can't imagine who. The number of co-conspirators is way over 10, and we've known that for a long-ass time. And if you need any help figuring that out, Whitney Webb's got you covered. Hundreds of pages all about co-conspirators, the network, etc. But Coffey's not ignorant to that. He's narrating it in response to the official narrative. So I see what he's doing. Not trying to hate on Coffey.
That all we really had was Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. That's the only people who have ever faced any charges at all. Ghislaine Maxwell, the only one who actually faced consequences, right? But in 2019, apparently there were 10 co-conspirators. Now, the people who were sending this to and from have been blacked out, but at the bottom we see that this is the Violent Crime Section, Crimes Against Human Trafficking Unit. And we can see that of the 10 co-conspirators, 3 have been located in Florida, served grand jury subpoenas, 1 in Boston, 1 in New York City, 1 in Connecticut were served. 4 out of the 10 are outstanding with attempts having been made. What is a wealthy businessman in Ohio?
Well, geez, that could only be one fucking guy. Leslie Wexner, founder of L Brands, Victoria's Secret, Abercrombie & Fitch. You know, his other CEO went down for a whole sex trafficking ring of young boys, Mike Jeffries, just last year. He pled insanity, and he got off on all of it. He had Alzheimer's, dementia, just can't, I don't remember what I did to all the boys. I'm just too old to face consequences. Leslie Wexner, on the other hand, didn't have to plead anything because no one ever touched him. Probably has nothing to do with the fact that he is one of the largest Zionist donors to our greatest ally in the world. Probably totally unrelated.
A lead is being sent to CV, and the remaining 3 are currently out of pocket. This is stunning stuff. Previously, we did not know how many co-conspirators were suspected of, or I'm not aware of anything like that.
Maybe Coffey's been busy doing other stories. Maybe Coffey has been reporting on other things. We knew all about that. There's way more than that.
And additionally, some of the details on this are revealed later because we see this subject line. It says co-conspirators at the top.
I mean, right there, they've got Jean-Luc Brunel marked, not redacted, because he did a little whoopsie while he was in prison and did a little in prison. And he's no longer with us anymore, conveniently, right around the time when the Epstein case was breaking, because Jean-Luc Brunel was really involved in this. He's the French connection, and he was modeling scout that allegedly certainly abused the shit out of a whole bunch of young girls. Might have abused a bunch of young boys too. There are binders with markings of what the photos are in Epstein's possession, which we'll look at here. And 1 or 2 of them definitely have Brunel gay marked on them. Let you assume what's inside of those.
And it says, blank does not need to head out. We made contact with blank last night in New York City. Blank last night in New York. Contact was made with blank.
Again, I'm sure that all of those blanks are victims. Not a single one would ever be a John or a wealthy businessman or a co-conspirator. Not one of them. Just remember that as we keep going through this, that every single redaction in these texts, obviously all victims, because these guys would never lie. These guys would never lie.
Blank, blank, and blank. By the way, I love how these potential co-conspirators are people who are being blacked out. Like, why? I thought the whole point of this was you couldn't redact people for personal information reasons or for public embarrassment. You could only redact on the basis of it being a victim, and I'm not sure how these people could possibly be victims here.
Epstein Files Transparency Act prohibits redactions, quote, on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity.
No record shall be withheld, delayed, or redacted on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. Like for a certain Ohio billionaire named Leslie Wexner, who literally bankrolled Jeffrey Epstein's entire operation from the start. He signed over power of attorney to Jeffrey Epstein so that Jeffrey had control over Leslie's entire fortune. He kicked his mom. Leslie Wexner kicked his own fucking mother out of his foundation so that Jeffrey Epstein could control his entire fortune. After having just met him recently, introduced by probably Robert Maxwell, and he just hands over billions and billions of dollars to this money manager with no record of managing money, no history, no big trades on the books. It's because they both work for Israel. And because when you sign over the power of attorney, you have plausible deniability. Because then when Jeffrey Epstein got caught, Leslie Wexner said, oh my gosh, I had no idea he was doing that with all my money. He stole some from me. What a horrible guy. I'm the victim. Oy vey, I'm a victim of traffic. Oh my gosh, my other CEO that I personally put in of Abercrombie and Fitch was trafficking boys the entire time. Oy vey, I just have the worst luck of picking fucking people to be in charge of my entire organizations. Leslie Wexner is still living free like a billionaire in his supergiant mansion. Never faced any consequences, despite the fact that he's way deeper than what I just described. He's all up in the mega group, his contact list, his philanthropic organizations. Yeah, we all know what Leslie Wexner is up to. It's pretty obvious. And no record shall be withheld, delayed, or redacted on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. Israel, including to any government, Israel, official, public figure, or foreign dignitary, or American government figures. Because fuck them. It's all of them. It's all of them. At this point, except for, apparently, Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And all the rest can get fucked.
Has anything been redacted on that basis?
Absolutely, positively not.
Absolutely, positively. You're a fucking liar, bro. I feel like we've just got to take a quick break to just go in briefly, just real briefly. Here's a whole bunch of photos of people shooting guns that they released themselves. They're all men shooting guns at the ranch. Here's the exact same fucking photos in this exact same fucking drop with every single man's face redacted. Whoever was going through the Epstein binders of photos just was going crazy, just redacting the shit out of everybody. Here is, Kevin Spacey and the boys hanging out on one of their business trips when they were touring around founding the Clinton Global Initiative with Jeffrey's help, obviously, because that's, the kind of guy that you want to set up your philanthropic organizations. Money laundering. Here's the same photos with all the dudes redacted because you gotta, here's a Secret Service guy redacted. There he is, not redacted. There he is hanging out with Clinton. Here's our boys Bill and Kevin Spacey. Redacted. Oy vey, I wonder why. Ain't that weird? I mean, you tell me if the guy with his arm around Ghislaine, you think it's a girl? You think it's a victim? Redacted. All redacted. Who knows? Whoever this dude in a suit next to Bill, redacted. See, that looks more like victims, probably. Redacted. But this is a dude. Obviously a dude. Probably another dude. And there's a girl. But redacted. I don't think I actually ever found the double of that. But here's the pilots. Fucking redacted. Fuck the pilots. Redact them. Larry. You can't see Larry's face. Redact it. Right? And that's not even talking about the text. These are just the pictures. Oh, hey, let's slide in this photo of Michael Jackson, which, to be fair, it was inside of Epstein's photo albums for whatever reason. Redacted. It's redacted in like multiple different ways. In this one, they show you Diana Ross, and in this one, they figured, no, you can't see any of them. Redact them all. And whatever name. What? Redact Michael Jackson? So, get fucked, you filthy worm.
Anyways, you can see that it says attempts were made to blank and Brunel, that's Jean-Luc Brunel, the famous who's now dead. Blank is confirmed to live in New York, was away for the holiday weekend. We did not have a good address, but an attempt was made in New York. Attempts are made to Maxwell today. Blank, you get it. Like, it's all the people they suspected this whole time are redacted, of course. And they say, I do not know about Ohio contacting Wexner. Now, that's a reference to...
Yeah, Wexner.
Les Wexner, the former CEO of Victoria's Secret. This is huge. We've long suspected that he was, of course, one of the co-conspirators.
Bro, we've long known.
And obviously, the fact the FBI suspected it isn't a 100% proof confirmation, but clearly they were serving grand juries.
Oh, we knew. We very well knew. And this is where it's like, I got all the respect in the world for CoffeeZilla, and I'm not saying that I know everything about the Epstein files by any means. There's people that know way more than me. But what I'm trying to say here is that you should reserve your judgment, even from hearing anyone speak about it, myself included, to just think there could be more, or this person could be wrong, or they could be underinformed. Your favorite pundit might be having a great take, but it might also be only half-baked, because they might not actually know the body of evidence that, like, the journalists that have been working on this for decades and more have actually already cooked up. So just keep an open mind to realizing that there are so many angles here, and no one journalist's mind is holding all of it, myself included. And it's a fucking mess in every direction. And we darn well more than suspected Leslie Wexner. Like, 2 sex trafficking? Let me say two of them. Both of your fashion industry brands, top fashion brands in the world. Like, think about it. If you're a millennial and you grew up going to the mall and you were like, the girls are at Victoria's Secret and the boy, we're hanging out outside of Abercrombie and Fitch and it smells like shit. That whole section of the mall was owned by these guys. Didn't matter which side of the hall you went to. If you're a boy, you can get trafficked over there. If you're a girl, you can get trafficked over there. That's literally Leslie Wexner's brand. All of it. Because Hollister is owned by Abercrombie and Fitch.
Subpoenas. I mean, that must be they're talking about one wealthy businessman in Ohio, because later it's confirmed by this whole idea of Ohio contacting Wexner. And you can see at the bottom, this is from the FBI New York. When you get a chance, give me an update on the status of the 10 co-conspirators. This is really bad to know that we knew as early as 2019 the right people to target, and yet our FBI, who's had evidence of this the entire time, or leads on it, has declined to prosecute, right? Because...
Oh, sorry, wrong ones. I know I've got Cash in here somewhere. Cash, where the fuck you at? There he is. There's the shit face.
On releasing the Epstein files. What do you say to Americans who are skeptical that there will be actual justice under a Trump administration?
Look at the work of this FBI. To date, in the 9 months that I've been on this job, we've arrested 30,000 people, 25,000 of which have been violent felons. That is double increase from year to date, from the same time period last year. We have taken on our priorities in counter-espionage work to an increase of 35% more arrests year to date alone. On the drug front, we've seized 1,900 kilograms of fentanyl. That is a 35% increase from year to date last year. That's just the work of this FBI. We found 5,400 and identified 5,400 children, missing children. That is a 17% increase from this time, same time period last year. These are just a few examples of how committed we are
to avoiding the fucking question, you goddamned house elf. What are you doing? What do they have on you? They have pictures of you boning your boyfriend? Do they have your family threatened? Do they have your testes in a jar? How many words can you possibly fit into your response to just say that I don't have a response because I am owned by whoever? Israel. Look at the work of this FBI. Okay, Cash, we're looking at the work of this FBI. And this FBI has known full well about who to target in order to investigate and bring down the world's largest sex trafficking ring the entire time, since 2019. And actually since before then, too. And what we're seeing is that y'all are covering it up. Y'all are saying things like, there's literally no evidence. We don't have any evidence. We reviewed every single file. If there was even a shred of evidence, do you think I wouldn't have released it? Yeah, we do, you fucking Sorry, I almost... Calm down. Cash, you're a piece of shit. you're a deplorable piece of shit. We are talking about the abuse, grooming, trafficking, and murder of countless young girls and young boys. And you are specifically covering it up. And we are not just talking about Jeffrey Epstein. We are not just talking about a guy that already is gone. We're talking about an entire network, a system. We're talking about a market. One of the most valuable markets in the world. The market for humans, for sex. And that market is still alive and well. It is thriving. All of those Johns that you have not yet arrested, you think they just decided that they would stop having a sex drive? You think they just decided to zip up their pants and walk away? Are you retarded? They are still out there procuring the product that Jeffrey had been selling. And now that Jeffrey is not selling it, other people are. And we're starting to wonder, Cash, what do they have on you? Have you ever procured the product? Because you look like a fucking idiot at best. And you look like an evil, spineless scumbag, more likely. So yeah, Cash, we're looking at the work of this FBI. And we've got some fucking questions.
This is what the FBI now tells us. Oh, don't bother. Don't worry about it. That's what they wanted us to believe in July. Fast forward to December, we find out there's 10 guys that they knew about since like 6 years ago. It's insane. Even over here, we see that in one of the lawsuits, I believe this is with Maxwell, the government actually wanted to refer to people at trial as co-conspirators of the defendant, aka Maxwell, for the purposes of a rule. And then they say Jeffrey Epstein, and then there are two names listed there who are going to be listed as co-conspirators. Again, who are those people? We were told that the only co-conspirator now is Maxwell, and if you don't believe that, you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theorist. But back in 2020, this was an idea not just promulgated by wackos, it was promulgated by who? The FBI themselves, the Department of Justice. Look at this. Co-conspirator question transcript. This is from USA NYS.
We've known this for way longer than this. If you remember, Alexander Acosta, when he did the whole sweetheart plea deal that was illegal and should be voided any day now, he said, I was told he belonged to intelligence and to leave him alone. And the list of people that can tell the Attorney General of Florida to stand down, that's a short list. That's a short list. Because realistically, it's like the list of people that can tell the Attorney General of the United States to stand down. I can only think of a few people in America and a whole lot of people, God's chosen people, that might be able to tell him to stand down. And we knew that all the way back then. And so, if you just do a little math with your brains, we all realize that if Alexander Acosta was told to stand down, obviously it's not because Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were working together with no other help. Right?
They say, question, when Jeffrey Epstein died, a lot of people asked, who's next? Is the government going to hold people who are accused of helping him recruit these girls? Are they going to hold them accountable? And then the answer is, well, I'll note that the original charges against Jeffrey Epstein contained a conspiracy charge, and we allege that there were conspirators involved. Jeffrey Epstein couldn't have done what he did without the assistance of others. And I can assure you that our investigation is moving forward, except I guess not. Against everyone except for Ghislaine Maxwell, it got killed. Like, Ghislaine Maxwell was the only one who faced justice, right? Except then she got moved to Club Fed, to this nice prison, right? And by the
And they actually tried to use Ghislaine Maxwell's like impromptu testimony where they convicted her in a court of law of trafficking minors. And then when Trump needed a PR win, he thought it'd be a good idea to trot out the convicted sex trafficker and bring her out and be like, well, why don't you tell us what really happened? And then she told them what really happened. And they were like, see? There's nothing to see here. Oh my gosh, maybe she's actually just innocent. We should move her to Club Fed and buy her margaritas, and maybe we should even just pardon her. You fucking idiots. Yeah, let's ask the convicted trafficker what really happened and just take their word at it. So, I'm getting fired up. CoffeeZilla has more here, but we're not going to watch the whole thing. I do recommend you watch his ongoing reporting on it because he's deep in it, and it's pretty cool. Shout out to him. Oh boy, how could we not?
However, when President Trump speaks for the
So we'll talk in a little bit about who Jeffrey Epstein worked for. We'll go over in a little bit this article and this article and this article and this article, and this article, and this article, and this article. We'll do a little bit of that later. But first, let's ask the Zionist shills. Let's ask America First Ben Shapiro about what we should do with these files. Because obviously, in America's best interest, Ben is going to tell it like it is. No nonsense. Straight from underneath the little hat. Right to you.
However, when President Trump speaks for the American people more generally, and he says, guys, don't we have better things to do? You can understand his irritation. The man is trying to negotiate an end to a war in the Gaza Strip. He's trying to negotiate an end to a war in Ukraine. He's attempting to revivify the American economy. He's attempting to crack down on illegal immigration. On a list of American priorities by the polls, the Epstein-Maxwell case comes in pretty close to zero.
Yeah, Ben. Because your boss has the tapes. Because he and you both look an awful lot like employees, let's say stooges, let's say operatives, assets, lone wolves with a few too many ties to Israel. How about that? Because I dare you to find a Zionist, especially a Zionist Jew, that is actually calling for the release of the Epstein files. I'm sure it's a coincidence. I'm sure they have no idea who Epstein worked for. And they just coincidentally all don't care about the files. Maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe abusing young girls is just not really a deal breaker for a Zionist. After all, pretty on brand for their favorite people over there. But yeah, Ben, no thanks. Bye. Okay, we've already looked at this document. We'll look at it again later. Okay. Let's not lose track of victims in all this. Let's hear what the victims have to say.
It's been so nerve-wracking. I think all of us are full of anxiety at this point, and you know that now that the files are released, we feel that it is a lot of files that don't have much information in them. So we're trying to figure out, you know, what is going on here, what kind of redactions were made. We can see some of these redactions were made obviously to protect, you know, again, the wealthy and the rich and the powerful men. So we are kind of a little disappointed with that.
Much more reserved than me. Props for that. Attorney General Pam Bondi wants you to know, though, that President Trump is leading the most transparent administration in American history. By moving to unseal these documents, we hope to give the American people more answers about that fateful day in Butler, Pennsylvania. And she's getting community noted like fucking crazy. She claims to be the most transparent administration in history, yet backtracked in Epstein binders, then changes her mind, calling it a hoax, and now redacted documents. Yeah. Ro Khanna, the Democrat that partnered across the aisle with Thomas Massie, who in my limited experience with him is a very reasonable Democrat. I don't agree with all of his policies, but he seems very reasonable. And thankfully, someone willing to stand up and actually get something done here. Without him and Thomas Massie, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and we wouldn't have all these files. We would still know all the same shit because we already knew. But at least now the public can see it. At least now the public can talk about it, and maybe we can actually get something done.
Attorney General Pam Bondi. Some Democrats are saying she should resign, including Congresswoman Alexandria.
She should be charged with crimes at this point. She should more than resign. She should be investigated. Who's pulling those strings? Is it really just that Pam Bondi wants to be popular and she wants to further her career? Maybe. Maybe she's really just that fucking shitty. Maybe she's just such a shitty person that she's willing to cover this up, actively cover this up, just to advance her career. But I gotta say, Pam, we've got some questions because Pam Bondi was in the Attorney General's office in Florida the entire time. She was there the entire time that the Jeffrey Epstein case was first moving through the justice system. She knew all about it. She had all the access in the world to it. And now she just happens to replace Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz gets blackmailed by an Israeli blackmail ring that tries to extort his dad for a bunch of money by trying to entrap him with an underage girl with this crazy scheme. He just recently talked about it again on Tucker, though he's told the story before. And then Matt Gaetz has to step down from the role of Attorney General. And we get Pam Bondi. Just by coincidence, Pam Bondi-Steen walks in here and oy vey, there are no files, but look at my binders. Yeah, that's an awfully coincidental type of thing to happen.
Ocasio-Cortez. Are you considering impeachment for the Attorney General if you don't feel that the Justice Department complies with your law?
Thomas Massie and I talked about it. He's working, as am I, on drafting articles of impeachment and inherent contempt. We haven't decided whether to move it forward yet, but we're in the process of doing it. And look, the problem that the Attorney General has, if you just look at the comments to our social media feed, is the amount of MAGA influencers who are upset with her. And the issue for her is not, are there going to be 212 Democrats who would support it? The issue for her is how many Republicans and MAGA supporters would support it. So my hope, because my hope has never been about Pam Bondi getting justice or Todd Blanche getting justice. My hope is she looks at this. She looks at the outrage that MAGA has. She looks at the disappointment that the survivors have. And she makes a decision over the next 2 weeks to actually start releasing these documents.
Yeah, but realistically, I think we all know that she doesn't work for us. They don't care about us. Right, Michael? What is it? They don't, all you want to say is that they don't really care about us? Something. It's not us that's getting them elected. It's not us that's furthering their campaigns and furthering their careers and their positions. It's not us that's holding the revolving door open into the banks and the military-industrial complex and, the darker parts of this whole system we live in. We're not the ones holding the door open. But someone is. Someone's got that door locked pretty down. But Ro Khanna does bring up an important point here that I think I want to just hop back over to. It's our boy Keith Edwards. I keep on finding Keith's content over and over and over again. And every time I'm like, I want this guy to be great at his job. I want this guy is supposed to be good at this. He's got what it takes to be good at this. And then like 1 minute of reporting goes by and I'm like, oh my God, he is an insufferable partisan. And I just want to highlight a little bit of this reporting as a plea to Democrats and a plea to Keith and to everyone that, bro, you are so missing the point and the opportunity here when you try to make it partisan and make it about them and them versus them, and be like, we're Democrats, we're better than this. No, you're fucking not. No, you're not. It's all of them. And they don't care about you, bro. They don't care about you unless you work for them. Unless you're actually working for them, in which case, fuck you. In which case, you're just Benny Johnson of the left, which is kind of the vibe I'm getting. But, like, you seem like you're supposed to be cooler, bro. So,
okay, we have some breaking news. The Justice Department is now responding to this latest Epstein leak. Donald Trump is asking if he should leave the presidency, and all of these files greatly
that's his music? Okay.
Implicate him in the most disturbing ways. Let's first get to this this comment for the Justice Department. Now, I guess I have to remind you, I'm just going to remind myself too, that the Justice Department works for us. It is our government. It is not.
See, like, the start of his reporting is like, actually, that's kind of similar to my reporting here. I mean, actually, bro, we sound like we're on the same track here. We sound like we're calling out all of them and reminding the people, the populace, where the power lies, where the guilty are. It sounds like, bro, we're really on the right track
there
here.
To protect Trump. The claims are unfounded and false, and if they had a shred of a lot of them. Now, Donald Trump, when asked about this, was very, 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 very upset.
Surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files, and can you commit to their full?
What?
And were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files, and can you commit to their full release by the end of the year? Some of the victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, but I think it's.
Trump's responses always suck. Stacy, I see you over there in the Twitch chat gifting crazy subs over there, even though I'm not like as present in that chat right now. I see you. You're a legend over there. Thanks, homie.
Terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So they're giving their photos of me too. Everybody was friendly with this guy, either friendly or not friendly, but he was around. He was all over.
He'll riff, and then he'll be like, oh, I kind of just said that I was friendly with him. Some people were not friendly with him. Some people weren't. I kicked him out. It's like, okay, bro.
Over Palm Beach and other places. The head of Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers.
Yeah, GG. The whole government is pedophile.
But everybody was.
Go lay down.
I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, did you hear,
GG,
that Trump threw him out of Mar-a-Lago?
Donald Trump had gone on Epstein's plane after that alleged story where Donald Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He had been on Epstein's plane at least.
It's like, okay, we're a Democrat. We're going to go a little hard on this part. It's like, okay, I can understand that.
At least 8 times. All right, now there's a really disturbing, I'm going to try to say this. I think I can but this is a letter that's postmarked 3 days after Jeffrey Epstein committed. This is not the first time that Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump share letters to each other where they reference their love for young girls. And Donald Trump famously said, grab him by the pussy. So, okay. And I mean, this just goes without saying, but MAGA said Trump appeared 0 times in the files. And as you know, we can now.
Listen, here, guys, here. I'll try to be less, what's the word I'm looking for? I will try to characterize people as like the left as less of a monolith. And as a person that came from the left and moved more towards the right, I would encourage you to think of MAGA as less of a monolith, because it's fucking fractured to hell. The right is not a monolith. The right is full of all sorts of free thinkers that want justice too, just as much as you. Maybe more. And all that we do by monolithing each other's sides is we dehumanize ourselves and we bicker and we fight and we blame each other when we're paying taxes to these assholes. So, to Keith and to everyone else that is actually a independent journalist, I'm giving Keith the benefit of the doubt. I don't know if he's an independent journalist or not. But I would urge us all to monolith less. MAGA is dead. It's been dead for a while now. And the left has been dead for even longer. What the hell is the left anymore? That's why I left, was because I noticed that this was the party of the deep state. I didn't realize it started long ago. I thought it started around Biden. Little did I know. Our boy Obama had some skeletons in the closet, as did Clinton, as did Poppy Bush before him, because it's all of them.
Unredact these files, and you see Trump's name all over the place. Now, we also are learning, too, that Ghislaine Maxwell had a
All right, I can't listen to enough of it to get to the quote that I wanted to get to. There's a point where he says, we're the left and like we're better than this. We're not going to do it like this. We aren't like that. And it's like, bro, you're maybe not like that, Keith. Your fucking politicians are. They're all like that. It's all of them. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for the partisanship. This is not a partisan issue. Trump is guilty as hell. Clinton's guilty as hell. Biden was guilty as hell. Kamala was guilty as hell. They're all guilty as hell. The next guy is going to be guilty as hell too. Regardless of who it is. They're all going to be guilty as hell.
Because she may lose more Republicans in the House than she anticipates.
So y'all are drafting articles of impeachment. I mean, how will you decide if you're going to file that?
Well, one is a pragmatic decision in terms of impeachment is a political decision. And is there the support in the House of Representatives? I mean,
so let's put our tinfoil on for just a second here. If you weren't already wearing it, I invite you to put your tinfoil on. You notice how the media is actually playing this story really hard? They're not running cover. They're not hiding it. They're not, kicking Roe off the air. They're giving Massey airtime. They're showing the documents. It's pretty clear that right now, the decision by the state, not the one that we vote for, not the one that we're supposed to be in control of, not the one that works for us, but the state, the empire, whoever controls it, it's pretty clear that they're down with dragging Trump through the mud, with dragging Clinton through the mud, with dragging all these guys through the mud right now. Why is that? What's going on behind the scenes? What have we heard reported on recently behind the scenes in the Trump White House, around the Charlie Kirk investigation, around, I don't know, war with Iran? And I want to remind you, we're not always talking about Israel, but when we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein and who's holding the blackmail that he'd collected, we are. And if you think we're not, it's because you can't read or you don't read. We know very clearly who Jeffrey worked for, who he was surrounded with, who he was reporting to, Ehud Barak. And so the conversation is inherently about what does Israel want. And when you look at who's getting dragged through the mud, this is part of a blackmail operation. It's not the way they would like to use it, but it's the way it's going to get used. Because sometimes blackmail operations get messy. And so don't forget in this whole conversation that what's being done on the stage, what the actors are playing out for us, is probably what the people holding the blackmail have decided is their move. So as we go forwards, just ask yourself, what's going on behind the scenes here? What kind of pressure is being put on Trump and everybody else in subtle and overt ways? And what comes next? And did you see the report that Benjamin Netanyahu recently called once more for Trump to join him in going to war with Iran? That was interesting timing. Aaron Parnas, everyone's favorite independent voice on the left. Jane Doe's Epstein survivor, who reported Epstein to the FBI in 2009, sent the following letter to the Department of Justice today after it failed to redact her name in the release of the files. So I'm not sharing this because I care to share Aaron Parnas' opinions. I would love to see Aaron Parnas think for himself and say one word that wasn't dictated to him by his daddy and the donors. But to highlight the feelings of Epstein survivors that are feeling pretty shitty about how this is all going down. And how, actually, their names aren't even getting fully redacted the way they were promised. But all the other guys' names are, it would seem. We can spend months and months and months stalling and pretending it doesn't exist and working really hard to redact all the victims' names, only the victims' names. But we can't even do that, apparently. That is not transparency. It is institutional failure layered upon historic injustice. And she is seeking retribution. You damn straight.
Document dump. The Justice Department's document dump this afternoon does not comply with Thomas Massie and my Epstein Transparency Act. They released one document from a New York grand jury of 119 pages, totally blacked out. This despite a federal judge ordering them to release that document.
And that indictment, by the way, is not like some random victim testimony. It's an indictment. So it's a list of, we're going to charge these people with crimes for these reasons. This is our evidence, and this is how we're going to proceed with the case. Convenient one to black out completely. I'm sure there's a lot of state secrets in there. I wonder who's implicated. I wonder which state has secrets in there.
And our law requires them to explain redactions. There's not a single explanation.
I'll explain it for you, Ro. Israel's got blackmail on all of our richest and most powerful people. And our own agencies, certain elements of our own agencies, got in on it with them. And they're just blackmailing everyone. Because our world is controlled by a deep state criminal cabal. The black markets have outpaced the lit markets, and the black markets run the show. And so now, it's actually the black markets that are calling the shots. And they wanted it redacted. And so you're damn straight it's going to be redacted. That's the explanation.
For why that entire document was redacted. We have not seen the draft indictment that implicates other rich and powerful men who were on Epstein's rape island, who either watched the abuse of young girls or participated in the abuse of young girls and the sex trafficking. The reality is Pam Bondi has obfuscated for months. She first said there were no more documents to be seen. Now she's admitting and releasing hundreds of thousands of documents, but it is an incomplete release with too many redactions. Thomas Massie and I are exploring all options. It can be the impeachment of people at justice, inherent contempt, or referring for prosecution those who are obstructing justice. We will work with the survivors to demand the full release of these files, to demand justice for the Epstein class and accountability.
Yeah. Yeah. Just an example of a document released prior that's now being released with more redactions. How useful. How useful. Here they've redacted the name Trump. There they've redacted the name Trump. There they redacted the name Jen. There they redacted the name Donald Trump. There they redacted the name Trump, Donald, Mr. Trump. Down here, they redacted the name Leslie Wexner. Oh, sorry, Leslie Groff. Leslie, probably Groff. She was one of the girls that got groomed into helping groom girls, manage Jeffrey's schedule. She was his personal assistant. He said that his brain couldn't function without her, that she was essential to his operation. She knows an awful lot. She's out there walking free. She's got that sweetheart deal protecting her still. And redacting her name, apparently. Let's check in with Massey. But first, let's note the particularly festive holiday decor at CBS Face the Nation. Just couldn't help but notice their festive holiday decor. Eh?
Can you do anything?
Oh, absolutely. Look, people have talked about, and by the way, Todd Blanche is the face of this, but it's really the Attorney General's office, Pam Bondi, who is responsible. And there are several ways to get at this. Some take longer, some are shorter. The quickest way, and I think most expeditious way to get justice for these
is to get out the wood chipper.
Victims.
I mean,
is to bring inherent contempt.
Sorry.
Again,
to bring inherent contempt. That's the one. To bring inherent contempt.
Against Pam Bondi, and that doesn't require going through the courts. And give her, and basically, Rokan and I are talking about and drafting that right now.
What are you going to do about it?
Legend, fucking legend. Ed Krasenstein still follows me. Okay, bro. So, they are currently working on drafting up legal action and pointing out that withholding the full Epstein files violates the law's prohibition and could carry penalties of up to 20 years in prison. You're damn straight. Let's go. Let's do it. I would love to see Pam Bondi in prison for 20 years. I would love to see Todd Blanche in prison for 20 years. I would love to see Kash Patel in prison far longer than that. Let's do it. Let's try it out. Let's F around and find out. Here's our girl Emily interviewing Thomas Massey about topics.
I stand with America. Like, I've got an American flag and a Kentucky flag.
Do you believe Netanyahu's involvement with Trump is influencing the decision of the Epstein file release?
I think Israel is influencing the Epstein file release because Israeli intelligence and our own CIA was wrapped up with Epstein. And so it would be embarrassing to our own intelligence agencies as well as Israel's intelligence agencies for all that to come out. And if you notice, there are a lot of bots online and people who are paid. Maybe they're not robots, but they are paid, and they're going.
Shout out to all the bots. Shout out to all the bots and shills in the chat. Everybody drop an Israel flag in the chat for the bots and the shills. You got to give some love to the bots and the shills, right? We love our shills and our bots.
After Marjorie and I, uniquely, and I think it's because we are against the war that Israel has in Gaza right now. And we want that to end. And we don't vote for foreign aid, and we don't vote for military aid for these other countries that are at war. And we get in trouble for that.
Do you think Epstein's still alive?
No.
And do you think he was a Mossad agent?
let's talk about agent. I think he helped Mossad.
Was he collecting blackmail on our politicians, and that's why no one wants these released?
You know, I don't know if it was blackmail, but like, let's say you were a drug user and you bought drugs from a drug dealer. The drug dealer doesn't blackmail you. The drug dealer has what you want, and then you start doing things for the drug dealer. I think Epstein was a sex trafficker.
That's blackmail. That's how blackmail works. And he's being tactful, and he's tactfully being very direct about these excellent questions from Emily, by the way. Shout out to Emily. That's blackmail. That's how it works. And they all know that's how it works. And it's not like they got tricked into it. And no, it's like, oy vey, whoopsies, I put my pecker in a little kid. Oh, no. That's not how it works. They're buying what they're selling. And they understand that now they're gonna, you're trapped. But being an evil piece of shit that serves the devil just feels so good. What can they possibly do but just give in to their desires? You might even argue that that's probably why a lot of them got there in the first place. Because in a nation ruled by blackmail, they promote the blackmailable. And it's been working that way for a long time. And you're dang straight, that's blackmail. Your drug dealer has blackmail on you. Your sex trafficker has blackmail on you. Anyone that's in bed with you for a illicit reason has blackmail on you. Just ask Hunter Biden.
And so
He supplied the women.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he was blackmailing his clients, but he was definitely
collecting videos and sending them through Ehud Barak back to home base. Just to hold on to them for souvenirs.
Favors from them by finding them women and offering women to them. So I'm not sure. And then obviously once you've done enough of that, there is a lot of blackmail material.
Like when Jess Staley, the CEO of all private banking at JP Morgan, sent the email saying, that was fun. Say hi to Snow White for me. And Jeffrey Epstein wrote back, who would you like next? And Jess Staley wrote back, Beauty and the Beast. Like when Jess Staley, sitting in Jeffrey Epstein's hot tub on Jeffrey Epstein's island, wrote to Jeffrey Epstein while he was in jail or house arrest, saying, gosh, I've never had a friendship so profound. I owe you so much. Blah, 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 blah. He's had a whole bunch more. CEO of private wealth management, private clients at JP Morgan. That's blackmail. A mutually beneficial relationship that neither of them can leak to the press, but only one of them is ever going to use as leverage for any reason.
You don't think there's like hidden tapes anywhere buried in the ground in a bunker somewhere?
Yeah, I think there probably are tapes like that.
Are they getting erased by the people?
Yeah. If Milo Yiannopoulos can keep a folder of blackmail on influencers that have done dumb shit in the past around him, trust me, Bibi Netanyahu can keep some tapes too.
I don't know that the Pam Bondi said there were a lot of tapes.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of misinformation and conflicting information out there.
Let's just check in with where is it? I put it behind this. I put it behind Keith. Let's just check in with some of the documents that were in this drop. I'm not going to explain what CSAM stands for. I'm going to trust that you are well educated enough to know. And if you don't know, you can look it up. All of these are from this one drop, interspersed with, DVDs with redacted names, and then Zorro Ranch, where obviously nothing ever happened because they decided they didn't even need to go there. Certainly no genetic experiments, no trafficking, no children coming across the border, none of that. Who knows what's behind the redactions? Oy vey, how could we ever even ask questions? Who knows what all these photos are? Who knows? I'm sure that we just trust our government that it's all good, bro. Whoever homie passing out on the chair was, he's fine, dude. He's fine. It's not even blackmail. It's not even blackmail. These were binders kept by Jeffrey in his own house. Let alone whatever he sent back to base. And that's just the CSAM that's on record so far. Just in those little binders. Just in that one property. And obviously I'm not digging Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey's a fucking legend. I'm just riffing.
So how do you expect the American people to believe any of it?
I believe about 1% of it myself.
Yeah. 1% is a pretty high estimate as far as I'm concerned. Newly released Epstein files document references films of men who were recorded with Epstein, including Trump and Clinton. Unclassified Federal Bureau of Investigation. Intake form. Blank blank, date of birth, home telephone number, residential address, blank blank. Called the FBI National Threat Operations Center to report he was contacted by blank blank, date of birth blank, home address blank, Manhattan, who is a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Blank provided the following information. He provided a background for himself, such as working with prominent business figures such as Leslie Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein, being pardoned by a U.S. president, among several other pieces of information. Blank found blank online and reached out as she is a victim of Epstein, and she has been in contact with hundreds of other victims. She is trying to publish a book. Blank knew about criminal activity, which happened in multiple states, on airplanes, etc. Blank claimed there were films of men who were recorded. These men are prominent figures such as Epstein, President Bill Clinton, and President Donald Trump. Maxwell is also on the tapes, as well as many, many other people. And I will have you know that without going into too much detail, a whole bunch of these photo album photos from Jeffrey Epstein's estate, it's very obvious that they were doing nude and lewd photo shoots with these girls that are victims, and they full well knew that they were being photographed and filmed. And many of them had probably been coerced into that, threatened into that, and some of them did it willingly for whatever groomed reasons made it make sense at the time. And it's super dark to even just understand through these black boxes what the implications of all of that is. But I say that to say that the victims would know. The victims know that there are tapes because they were there and they knew they were being filmed because the cameras were not hidden in many cases. I think in some cases the cameras were hidden, but I think in most cases the cameras were out. And I think it's probably not that different than the Diddy parties. I think at the Diddy parties, a lot of the cameras were out. They took everyone's phones beforehand so that those cameras weren't out. But then, I mean, who's going to pass up a great opportunity to collect some memorabilia to send back to boss? Todd Blanche.
In that photo, there's photographs of women. And so we learned after releasing that photograph that
tell us some lies, Todd.
There were concerns about those women and the fact that we had put that photo up. So we pulled that photo down.
He's explaining why they took down the photo of Donald Trump, the one that disappeared after it had already been put up, and then they're like, oopsies, and then they took it down. It was Trump framed on Jeffrey Epstein's desk with his arm around a whole bunch of bikini-clad women that, to be fair, they didn't look like they were like 12 or anything. But they didn't like having that up. And I guess they just weren't smart enough to notice all the bikini girls and redact it. Maybe they've been working overtime, doing all the other redactions that were all very necessary and all above board, all very legal.
It has nothing to do with President Trump. There are dozens of photos of President Trump already released to the public seeing him with Mr. Epstein.
Oh, we know.
He has said that in the 90s and early 2000s, he socialized with him. So the absurdity of us pulling down a photo, a single photo, because President Trump was in it, is laughable. And the fact that everybody's trying to act like that's the case is a reflection of their true motivation. But the reality is anybody, any victim, any victim's lawyers, any victim rights group can reach out.
Yeah, what were we just looking at here? It was, did I close it? The document where they redacted Trump's name a whole bunch? I think I closed it, unfortunately. Where it was the same document first and second, and they'd just taken out all the Trump names. Yeah. That's awkward. We've already watched this one. I want to invite you all to look around the social media space and notice who's not talking about it. Who is not. I mean, and to be fair, you know, maybe they're taking their time. Maybe they're reading through them. Maybe they're waiting for instructions to go ping. Maybe they just need to think a little harder about what the narrative is supposed to be, about what Bibi would want. I mean, what's in America's best interest? To be fair, I mean, oh, that's Matt Walsh. Matt Gaetz has talked about it a lot. A lot. So think critically. Think for yourself. From the Epstein files, Epstein threatened to burn someone's house down if they revealed he stole photos of young girls and sold them and had other photos taken. Click alt text if you can't read. Complainant stated that she is a professional artist and took pictures of her sisters 12 and 16 years for her own personal artwork. Epstein stole the photos and negatives and is believed to have sold the pictures to potential buyers. Epstein at one time requested blank to take pictures of young girls at swimming pools. Epstein is now threatening blank that if she tells anyone about the photos, he will burn her house down. Because remember, there's a whole marketplace for evil in this world. And it's very lucrative. And there's so many sides of this that are fully operational still, fully making money, fully in effect. Just one guy went down. One guy expired. Someone else stepped up.
And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me. And I want to tell you that this only became possible today because the American people, whom we serve as representatives here in Congress, demanded that this vote happen, and they put more pressure on every single elected politician in this city than has ever been put on them. And today you are going to see probably a unanimous vote in the House to release the Epstein files. But the real fight will happen after that.
Oh, it's just getting started. And MTG, thank you. Thomas Massey, thank you. Ro Khanna, thank you. I hold no ill will towards MTG for resigning. We have no idea what happened behind the scenes. Thank you for getting the ball across the line. We will continue to play. This is the testimony from the limo driver, which I'm not going to read out loud. For obvious reasons. It's making the rounds today for obvious reasons. And we don't know if it's true or not. We don't know if it's true because our own government is asleep at the wheel and they're not investigating. They're not chasing down leads. They're not interviewing victims. So we are all left to speculate. And in the absence of investigation, in the absence of law enforcement, this is what you get. You get the court of public opinion. And right now, the court of public opinion ain't opinioning too good. It's not a great opinion out here of what we're seeing. Cash, you piece of shit. So just a reminder that this has been known for ages.
Had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. We were so afraid we wouldn't be able to interview Kate and Will that also quashed the story. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I was so pissed. She had pictures, she had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything. Brad Edwards, the attorney, 3 years ago saying, there will come a day when we will realize Jeffrey Epstein was the most prolific pedophile this country has ever known. And I had it all 3 years ago.
Yeah. We had it all the way back in 2008. But then we did a plea deal because he belonged to intelligence, and we were supposed to leave him alone. But right now, that's all getting lost in the conversation. We're all getting lost in the Trump. It's Trump. Trump's in there. Trump's, fucking, okay, cool. Everyone's in there. He belonged to intelligence, and intelligence rules the world because intelligence doesn't work for the president. Intelligence doesn't work for the people. Intelligence was specifically set up by a bunch of corporate scumbags to serve foreign globalist corporate masters, to serve the bankers, to serve the cartels, to smuggle drugs, to overthrow governments, to have a government-sanctioned license to violence that they use with surgical precision ever since, sometimes with reckless abandon. And when you look at the intelligence space and you ask yourself who's top dog in that space, do you think it's America or is it Israel? Look at this scandal. Look at Epstein. Who do you think is top dog in this story? Who do you think is holding all the blackmail? This is a really interesting document, actually, that I kind of want to go and ask Webb to find real quick. Let me just pop into the corner real quick. Is there any documents mentioning director from Hollywood Villeneuve. Did I spell it right? 2 L's. So I spelled it a little wrong. Villeneuve. I spelled it pretty wrong, but it picked it up. I found references to someone named Villeneuve, but it's not the Hollywood film director Denis Villeneuve who directed Dune. Oh, interesting. I assumed it was. Who appears in FBI tip report. It's Lisa Villeneuve. Okay, I'm learning things. Webb, you're amazing. They remain friends, so this is the exact, it pulled the exact source out. Boom, just like that. So suddenly, you see something reported on the internet, and you're like, huh, I wonder if that's real. And so then, you pop over to the web, and you just search for like, hey, I saw a document in the files about someone called Villeneuve. I assume it's Denis Villeneuve, the director who directed Dune. And then you're like, and web pulls it up, and it's like, actually, it's not Denis Villeneuve, it's this chick, this girl. Lisa Villeneuve. And it pulls the exact source. And actually, there's another source too. Here's a separate reference to a Villeneuve, Helicopters Limited, in aircraft registration documents, which I'm too zoomed in on to see. Or maybe it's in metadata? I don't know. Maybe the source is weird. Interesting. Cool. Boom. Pulled the exact thing. But it's just interesting. It says a lot about this industry. Blank provided the following information. Blank met, oh yeah, it says Lisa right there. Lisa Villeneuve at a hospital where they were roommates in 2000. Villeneuve now goes by Ghislaine Lisa Villeneuve. Interesting. And sells real estate in Irvine, California. After Blank and Villeneuve left the hospital, they remained friends. Later that year in 2000, around Christmas time, Villeneuve invited Blank to a party on Palm Beach Island, Florida. Blank believes the house belonged to Epstein. Before the party, Villeneuve took Blank to meet Bobby Cox. Cox was a young man and introduced himself as a model scout. Villeneuve laughed in response to Cox's introduction and said, "No, you're a pimp." Villeneuve, Cox, and Blank then went to the party. They entered the property through the backyard, and Villeneuve said she would go inside to speak with the hostess, which Blank believes was Ghislaine Maxwell. So, this Blank is someone who's not from this world, but I'm just going to assume that she's pretty. Because she gets invited to this party, and the way she gets treated implies that she's pretty. But people that are from this world, this is all just normal to them. It's just a laugh. It's a, no, you're a pimp. Ha ha ha. Now join our party and we'll go to the party together. They entered the property through the backyard, and Villeneuve said she would go inside to speak with the hostess, which Blank believes was Ghislaine Maxwell. When Villeneuve took Blank inside, Villeneuve told Blank to stay close and not go into any of the rooms because she knows what's going on, because they all do. Villeneuve took Blank to meet a man named Kurt Schmidt, who is currently the CEO of Blue Buffalo. When Villeneuve and Blank approached Schmidt, he asked Villeneuve if Blank was cool. Blank stated she was cool. Yeah, I'm cool, because she didn't realize what she was being asked. Villeneuve said, no, he means cool to have sex. Schmidt said, no, he meant cocaine. Villeneuve took Blank back inside. Someone told her the party that Donald Trump had invited them all to a party at Mar-a-Lago. Blank told Villeneuve she wanted to go, but Villeneuve told Blank it wasn't that kind of party. It was for prostitutes. Blank hadn't spoken to Villeneuve since 2002. And to be clear, she might have just said it was for prostitutes because she was on Team Jeffy. And she likes to hang out with these prostitutes, not those ones. And realistically, the line is pretty blurry between, wait, did you choose to enter into this industry, or were you groomed into this industry? Were you coerced? Were you forced? Were you trafficked? But don't worry, the rich folks are just having a great ass time, sipping martinis and enjoying all the vices in the world because they're cool. You're cool, right? I'm cool. Is she cool? Yeah, she's cool. Money does fucked up things to people. Money will do fucked up things to just about anyone. Even scientists. A really disturbing video that tied to the Epstein files is going around allegedly showing Harvard professor Steven Pinker with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm going to be clear. I don't know exactly where this video is sourced from. In the video, you can hear what sounds like a very young girl asking, "Where are you taking us?" Pinker has crossed paths with plenty of politicians and world leaders over the years, including Justin Trudeau. He is all up in the orbit of lots of Epstein friends. So you can't quite hear it very well. Where are you taking us? Just kind of quiet in there. Pretty fucking dark. Pretty fucking dark.
Who is calling for the release of the Epstein files. Find me one, just one Zionist who is calling for the release of the Epstein files.
How about we all... I think the closest you can get is Cernovich, probably. Cernovich is probably the closest. If we're being generous.
Come together and say, let's stop attacking pedophiles.
That's right. You can't.
Whoa, Ted.
Calling for the release.
Whoa,
Ted.
How about we all come together and say, let's stop attacking pedophiles?
September 30th, 2025. Whoa, Mr. Christian Ted. Tell us more about your Bible. Ted, would you please read a passage from your holy book to us? I think we have some questions, Ted. What's going on, bro?
That's right.
Yeah.
You can't, because Zionism and pedophilia are
Gigi, you gotta go lay
inextricably linked. If you are a Zionist, it means that you are either a pedophile, someone who supports pedophiles, someone who facilitates pedophiles, works with pedophiles, or just someone who generally excuses pedophiles. If you are a Zionist, it means you support the belief that the most powerful people on the planet have the exclusive right to abuse the most vulnerable group of people on the planet, children, with complete impunity. And this belief is at the heart of the Zionist project. It's also at the heart of the United States of America, and it's very much at the heart, more specifically, of New York City.
And Los Angeles, and Las Vegas, and Miami, and really anywhere that billionaires fly around. It's not all the billionaires, but it's most of them. And in case you're not up to speed on Zionism's link to pedophilia, just do a little digging around. Just do a couple searches. Look up a couple stories. Look up the right to rape protests that happened over there when a bunch of IDF soldiers got caught, to Palestinian prisoners. And they actually tried to charge them with a crime. And they had a riot. They had a fucking protest all across Israel, particularly there on the base. But not because they caught them doing this horrible thing. It was because they were trying to charge them with a crime, and they demanded that you can't punish Israelis for that. That is our right. We have the right to that. Or you could, take it closer to home. Jeffrey Epstein. And I've been talking to Zionists for years now about the fact that Epstein obviously worked for Israel. How's that conversation going for you guys, by the way? How's that argument going? And all along they've been like, no. You're just crazy about, you're just obsessed with Israel. It's like, no, I just read, and I can read, and I know who Ehud Barak is, and I know who Leslie Wexner is. And I know how to read Epstein, like Epstein. And it's obvious who he worked for. You familiarize yourself with any bit of the story, let alone dig into the thousands and thousands of leaked emails between him and Ehud Barak, which we'll get to here in a minute. Not in the not in like the granular detail of the emails themselves, but in what's contained in them. And all the different, clearly Israeli intelligence operations that they took part in together all around the world. Yeah, that argument is falling apart. And it's looking an awful lot like you're actually just trying to protect Israel at the cost of literally trying to cover up the world's largest trafficking ring. How's that going? How is it going for you? This is the lone member of Congress who voted against releasing the Epstein files this most recent time. Representative Clay Higgins. He wants you to know that he stands with Israel. But he's got a cross on his Bible? Yeah. How about you fucking move there, Clay? But don't worry, you'll be safe over there. They don't prosecute you for that kind of stuff, so you'll be fine. You might want to hurry up, though. Just a thought. This email has been majorly making the rounds. It's in the new batch. Because the new batch, the ones that just came out last night, they contain a whole bunch of ongoing conversation emails, documents of the investigation from like 2019 onwards. So it involves a lot of government officials talking to each other about what they've got and about what they already know and about their co-conspirators and how they're going to charge them and all these other things. And this one has been making the rounds for very good reason. Epstein flight records, 8th of January, 2020. For your situational awareness, wanted to let you know that the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported, or that we were aware, including during the period we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case. In particular, he is listed as a passenger on at least 8 flights between 93 and 96, including at least 4 flights on which Maxwell was also present. He is listed as having traveled with, among others, and at various times, Marla Maples, his daughter Tiffany, and his son Eric. On one flight in 1993, he and Epstein are the only 2 listed passengers. On another, the only 3 passengers are Epstein, Trump, and then 20-year-old redacted. On 2 other flights, 2 of the passengers, respectively, were women who would be possible witnesses in a Maxwell case. We've just finished reviewing the full records, more than 100 pages of very small script, and didn't want any of this to be a surprise down the road. Assistant U.S. Attorney, Southern District of New York. So, it's a little awkward. But who knows? Maybe he was just going to go see Bubba. Maybe Bubba was at the airport he was landing at. Maybe he wanted to see Bubba. We have long had the photo of Epstein wearing the IDF shirt. It has now been released in the new batch as well, folded up neatly in his closet. I'm sure it's his only one. I'm sure it's just a souvenir from when he went over there to kiss the wall. I wonder if Ted Cruz has any of them. And I know we're making a lot of jokes and talking a lot of shit. But yeah, this is not supposed to be fun. This is a fight, a battle between good and evil. And it's a battle for the soul of our nation and our culture and our world. And there's an element of trying to make it entertaining enough that we can all pay attention, that we can get the attention of the asleep masses, get the NPCs to wake up and fucking give a shit. But remember that it is super real. And when you actually look behind the curtain and you actually think about what these files are showing us, it's super disgusting. And you can get fucked, kindly. As can everyone else that tried to cover it up. We'll talk to Penguin a little later. We're done with you. Let's rewind. Let's take a break here. Let's take a break here for a second. Checking with the chat. Checking with the chat. Well, here's the thing about justice for the victims, chat, is there unfortunately is no justice for these victims. Even if something were to be done about it, that can never be undone. Abuse at an early age is destructive to the soul. It's a destructive cycle that once it's started, it cannot be undone. You can heal through it and you can grow through it and you can build through it and build a life and move if you're strong, but you cannot undo it. And that's the reason why this crime is the worst crime there is because you are taking innocence. You're destroying innocence. You're killing a child. Even if the person survives, you've committed the most egregious act there is. And so there is no justice adequate to this crime. And I would argue there's no justice adequate to the cover-up of this crime either. But that doesn't mean we do nothing. I see a lot of people making comments about copy-paste, the unredacted stuff. I think a lot of people are misunderstanding that whole conversation. The copy-paste stuff, let me see if I have it right here. No, it's not in that one. So the copy-paste stuff, what happened is apparently some of the redactors are retarded. And they were apparently probably using Adobe Acrobat or something. They were redacting in a way where it was covering the text, but in a PDF, not actually destroying it or blanking it out as an image. And so you could actually still just select the text behind it. And people realized that you could just select all the text and then copy it out into a document and you could just read it all from behind the redactions, which is pretty fucking funny and pretty silly. But by my understanding, so I know for sure that the vast majority of them are not actually like that. The vast majority of them, you can't just copy and paste. It's only specific files. And I believe that it's only one of them. One large exhibit. Exhibit 1. I could be wrong. It could be that it's more than this, but Exhibit 1 is many, many pages long, and I'll show it to you right here. And I'll show you the side-by-sides. And so a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, you can unredact everything. And it's, no, you can't. You can't unredact everything. It's just this stuff. And so this is a side-by-side. The government version is on the left. I'm pretty sure that the redacted is on the left and the unredacted is on the right, but we'll have to go until we see some redactions side-by-side, right? So some legend fixed the whole thing and took it all out for us. And it's all here, side-by-side. And if you look up Exhibit 1 side-by-side PDF, I think I got this one from Reddit, but it's probably circulating on X as well. You can find it too. And so you can go and look and be like, huh, and of blank. And of Financial Strategy Group Limited, Financial Trust Inc., FT Real Estate Inc., Gratitude America Inc., Hyperion Air Inc. These are all of his companies. Dude, I learned today about Trump's LLCs that are called, I was snooping around in web, and I found reference, because I asked it about references to Israel, and it pulled out references to Trump companies that are called Trump Drinks Israel Holdings LLC and Trump Drinks Israel Holdings Member Corp. And you can look those up. Those are real companies. Trump Drinks Israel Holdings LLC. I think it's actually that Trump was probably trying to like make a liquor company or something and sell booze and it like out of Israel or whatever. But it was just funny. It was funny. There's some funny fucking companies out here, and there's some super sketchy ones. Liquid Funding Limited. There's a whole rabbit hole around 2008 and Jeffrey Epstein and Liquid Funding Limited. So there's all sorts of little details that are hidden in these documents. And I have not personally gone through this PDF yet. I'll probably actually use Web to summarize what's behind all of these redactions, because I can just plug this PDF directly into Web, and then I can actually source page by page all the redactions. I can just talk to it instead of having to read every single page of it. But this is the side-by-side of what I believe is the one that had the redaction issue. It's possible there are more, though. I could be wrong about that. But this is Superior Court of the Virgin Islands, action for damages, jury trial demanded. So there's some spice in there. But that is to answer the chat that's saying, you can unredact everything. No, you can't, unfortunately. No, you cannot. Any other last little check-ins to do with chat before we jump into phase 2 here? Phase 2 of the document release. I've got a whole binder for you, bro. And it's called One Nation Under Blackmail. And you should read it by Whitney Webb. She'll straighten you out. She's got sources cited at the back of every chapter. You might have to take some notes because it's dense and there's a lot of information in there. You might have to read it a few times. But this is the quintessential book about Jeffrey Epstein and his networks. And back there, you can see volume 1 with the green text. It's a 2-volume series. Volume 1 is about the black market world that evolved from like 1900 onwards that created the system within which Epstein came from. They created the environment that allowed for Epstein to come up. And then volume 2 is actually the story of Jeffrey Epstein. Very thoroughly sourced, very well done, documented all the way through, and it names all sorts of names, shitloads of names. So many names you won't even know what to do with it. You'll need to take breaks because it's so dense, and there's so much dirt in there. And Whitney Webb is a total legend, and she's been talking about how Epstein had connections to Israeli intelligence, to organized crime, to arms trafficking, human trafficking, obviously, blackmail, as well as tech, as well as AI, digital mass surveillance, physics, all sorts of things for a long time. Highly recommend the book. Who is Bubba? If you believe Mark Epstein, it's not Clinton. You should really trust Mark Epstein. And if you don't know who Mark Epstein is, well, funny thing, Mark Epstein is in the Epstein files. A much younger version of him. We exposed this the other day. I have a whole stream that we just made a YouTube video out of where we went through the files and actually photo identified by face to name. And this right here is Mark Epstein hanging out with his boy. Looking pretty whack. But that is Marky Mark, who's still alive and well and free and not even under investigation, despite being on the paperwork for OSA Property Management, as well as a bunch of Jeffrey Epstein's properties in the early days, despite being directly involved in the properties that were housing the girls throughout the 90s. Clearly directly involved in the back end of this operation in multiple ways. Not interested. He's free. In fact, he's probably protected by the sweetheart deal. Because why wouldn't you protect Jeffrey Epstein's brother with a sweetheart deal? They protected all of his co-conspirators, named and unnamed, with that sweetheart deal at the time. Because they're fucking evil. So, with that, let's jump into part 2 here. And we're going to just take a little jaunt with Upper Echelon back to the very beginning. Upper Echelon does some amazing kind of video YouTube documentaries, and he does a really good job of like primary sourcing and storytelling, big picture, original narrative, like deep history digs into where things really came from and not getting caught up in like just the present moment. So we're going to watch a few minutes at the start of this.
The entire government narrative about Epstein, as in the idea that there's no further guilty parties, no one else deserving of prosecution, and that the case should be effectively shut down, that entire narrative just went up in smoke. I'm not exactly sure why the DOJ and the FBI are choosing to release the documents this way, drip feeding them in separate batches, even though they've obviously prepped a lot of them beforehand, but...
Because when you drip feed them in batches and you get everyone just partisan fighting and talking about which name is where, focusing on the celebrities, you lose track of the actual narrative, the actual problem of the intelligence deep state. You lose track of the blackmail that is still over in Israel, controlling our nation and our elite. You lose track of the system that perpetuates this, that is ongoing. You lose track of the culture that accepted this, that is ongoing. You lose track of the fact that it's not just the names that are in these files, it's the entire system, and it's all of them, and it's systemic. And it needs to be burned down. That's why they're drip feeding them out this way.
But whatever the reason may be, and despite the fact that the first few batches hardly contained anything of notable impact, what they just released in batch 8 of the files completely destroys the reputation of the current administration. Let's go back in time. This entire thing started with a joint DOJ-FBI memo. This memo, right here, basically said, there's nothing else to see, the investigation is over, and most importantly, quote, we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties.
Remember that. Remember Kash Patel saying there's no evidence. No one whatsoever. He didn't traffic any girls to anyone. Despite the fact that we have all the photos now, just this tiny, tiny, tiny little fraction of what they've got, which is only a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of what existed, because they never raided Zorro at all, which was probably the worst of the 3 properties. They gave him advance warning at Palm Beach, and then when they did raid Palm Beach, they were like, we don't really have the warrant or probable cause to take all of these hard drives and shit. So if you could send them to us next week, that would be great. True story. And I forget exactly, but they had a bunch of advance warning before they raided New York. And I don't believe anyone ever raided the Paris home, the UK, the London home, all of his other properties. The vast majority of the evidence was never even collected. It was protected. And the vast majority of what they did collect is still being protected. That's not to mention whatever got burned, proverbially or literally.
End quote. Nobody believed that. Regardless of whether or not there was public proof, the idea that Jeffrey Epstein was alone in his crimes felt ridiculous. We knew that Ghislaine Maxwell had been convicted, but the commonly accepted zeitgeist, if you will, as it relates to Jeffrey Epstein, was that he operated a trafficking empire, catering that empire to the rich and the powerful. That sort of common perception wasn't based on nothing, by the way. It was based on testimony, an abundance of victim testimony, actually. As an example, here's a quote from case 80736, Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2 versus the United States, which says, quote, Epstein also trafficked the minor Jane Doe, making her available for sex to politically connected and financially powerful people. Epstein's purposes in lending Jane Doe, along with other young girls, to such powerful people were to ingratiate himself with them for business, personal, political, and financial gain, as well as to obtain potential blackmail information. End quote. The list of similar testimony is long, very long. That's just one example, but that's not the main purpose of the video. The real purpose of this video, after once again establishing that there is a very good reason why the commonly accepted narrative is what it is, the real purpose of the video is to showcase that the government has now obliterated their own constructed narrative.
Correct. What's the other big story that everyone's curious about where the government has a narrative and a bunch of shills shilling it? that just keeps on obliterating itself. What's the other story? Something about a magic bullet? Something about Israel, our greatest ally, something. Who's investigating that one? Right.
This right here is the DOJ portal for the new Epstein files. Most of it doesn't matter, but the transparency section, that does matter. Because Congress compelled them to release what they have, and the political pressure on top of the scrutiny is through the roof right now.
So, if you're not familiar with it, you can search U.S. DOJ, Department of Justice, Epstein Library. Justice.gov. Let me look what the actual exact URL is up here. Justice.gov/Epstein. Nice and simple for you. And that'll take you here. When you come here, you're going to see a bunch of different sections that can be confusing if you're not familiar. Court records, DOJ disclosures, Freedom of Information Act, House Committee Oversight and Government Reform disclosures. And what you're looking for is in DOJ disclosures, Epstein Files Transparency Act, because that is the act that Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie drafted, everyone voted on, and is now law. And under that act is all of these data sets that are way spicier, though they're still very redacted. And they go down to data set 8 so far. Data set 8 is what just came out. Data sets 1 through 7 had come out a few days prior. First phase of declassified Epstein files is retarded. BOP video footage is even more retarded. That's like the 10-hour long video of not the right cell because all the video footage is missing. Maxwell proffer, other case. That's the Maxwell bullshit when they tried to like give her a victory lap, like exonerate her, pretend like she was going to tell you the truth. Memoranda and correspondences. So that's where you find them. You can download them all as zip files, and then you can unzip them and play with them to your heart's content, but they're a lot to get through. Instead, you might go to this resource that was set up by, I don't know, I don't think it was CoffeeZilla that set it up. I think it was his homies, maybe Dropsite News, maybe someone else, jmail.world/drive. I think you can just go to jmail.world, I believe. Yes, and then you are logged in to Jeffrey Epstein as though you were him inside of his Gmail. And they have since added a photos section and a drive section for all attachments. There's audio, there's PDFs and all that stuff. There's a flights section that has all the flights mapped. Unfortunately, it's not actually as useful as you might think, in my opinion, but you should look around and have some fun. And you can filter by who's on which flights, though it's wildly incomplete compared to the actual flight logs. So more fun than anything else. It has an extracted Amazon orders catalog from his Amazon orders that is a little weird. It's got, I don't even know what this one is. Epstein VR. Oh, shit. And Spotify? Yikes. I think the photos is the most useful one because the mail one is like, you're not going to read enough. You're not going to sort through it enough. It's searchable, but like, it's better than nothing. It's way better than nothing. And huge props to whoever made this. By putting out web, our hope is to make it even more accessible. And we intend to put a version of web online that is free to use, that has all of the Epstein files preloaded in. So you can just get in there and just start typing questions and it'll start sourcing documents out at you. So that and then you can ask more questions and source more documents and build your own canvases like I do in your own way in order to do your own investigations into what's in there. And then we can crowdsource because there's a lot more files coming and we're going to need everybody on this case. So all these resources are wonderful and a huge shout out to everyone that made them. Web is not ready yet to join the fray, but hopefully it'll be ready by January. Hopefully by the new year, we'll have it out to you. We're working hard on it. But we'll do a little bit more of upper echelon and then we'll move.
Everything they do is being analyzed. If they make any mistakes, people see it immediately. And my personal guess is that at least a few moderately ranking administration officials will be used as patsies. But regardless, over the span of just a couple of days, December 19th through the 23rd, just in time for Christmas, the US government began releasing batches of documents and making them available to the public. I've already talked about batches 1 through 4 in a prior video. It's part of the playlist. It's all linked down below. It's a shit show, certainly, but more so because of the way that they're doing it, not so much because of what the documents contained. However, document batch 8 is where it goes off the rails completely, because what they have now shown is utterly damning, totally contradicts pretty much every single thing that ranking law enforcement representatives have been saying recently, and makes it obvious that whether or not they want to prosecute now, at one point in time, there were at least 10 suspected co-conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein.
Right? This is the story. This is what came out last night. And we're not entirely clear if it was supposed to come out or not. Because actually, remember, number 8 was accessed clandestinely by the journalists that were like, I wonder if we just change 7 to 8, if we'll see it. And it was there. And so then they started digging through it and they started reporting on it. And it's like, well, it's out now, whether you like it or not. Because once DropSite gets their hands on it, you're fucked. Because DropSite is the shit. We'll read DropSite in a second.
Multiple co-conspirators being offered what's called proffer agreements. And lastly, the current administration is not just redacting victim information, they're redacting the names and information of suspected co-conspirators. It's not just a meme anymore. It's a government protecting the pedophiles.
Bingo. Couldn't have said it better myself. Highly recommend that you go and follow Upper Echelon, like his work, support his work. I enjoy pretty much every one that I see from him. This is Coffee's original video. We're going to check on 2 quick news reports to see what the mainstream media is saying about it. I wanted to know, we all know how the leftist media is going to be reporting on it. I wanted to see what Fox News is saying about it. What is Fox News saying about it? And I haven't watched these yet because we'll see. But I want to know, is Fox News running with the same lines? Is Fox News throwing everyone under the bus too? Is it a full-on media narrative now? Or is Fox News still trying to hold the line?
Justice Department releasing a new batch of over 30,000 documents related to Jeffrey Epstein just this morning. Alexandria Hoff has more on this latest group of documents from our D.C. newsroom. Alex, to you.
Hey, Molly, yeah, it's a profound group. We've been inching through all of it since early this morning, and much of this latest installment is court documentation and emails related to the criminal cases against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Some of it benign, out-of-office responses, media clippings, but revelations are there, like a fake passport that Epstein used in the 80s, listing Saudi.
The passports are interesting because he belonged to intelligence. We'll look at those in a minute.
Arabia as his place of residence. Also, an apparent link to the British royal family with a sender titled The Invisible Man writing in an email that he was writing from Balmoral Castle to Ghislaine Maxwell in 2001 asking, have you found me some new inappropriate friends? It's signed just A. The sender is not identified, but many readers suspect that this points to former Prince Andrew, who is noted elsewhere in the documents as providing zero cooperation in the federal Epstein probe. Another email making headlines was sent by an assistant U.S. attorney in 2020, stating President Trump flew on Epstein's plane at least 8 times between 1993 and 96, more than originally reported. Also included a 2021 federal subpoena to Trump's Mar-a-Lago club, who was seeking employment records as part of the Maxwell prosecution.
So they are going after Trump a little. Do you think they're going to mention the one about the limo driver?
Now, nowhere in this material is the president formally accused by the government of any wrongdoing. And the Justice Department stating today some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false. And if they had a shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against President Trump already.
See, I used to believe that line. I think a lot of us used to believe that line. Yeah, a lot of people have woken up.
Now, one really does have to be careful when combing through all of this to separate internal legal government memos from information that was just submitted by random outsiders, which all became part of the same case file by default. Molly.
Great point that there would be nice if there was more context for each and every one of the items that are coming out. Alexandria Hoff, thank you very, very much. Sure.
Fox News. Thank you very, very much. One more.
It says it will continue to release more of the Epstein file. The Justice
I just love whatever we're on beforehand. Hanukkah. We're on Hanukkah beforehand.
Department says it will continue to release more of the Epstein files on a rolling basis, blaming any delays on releasing all of the files on the time-consuming process of obscuring victims' names and other identifying information.
You've had him since 2019.
For reaction to that and much more, Fox News correspondent Lucas Tomlinson is in Florida covering the president. Hello, Lucas.
Shannon, at least 16 files have disappeared from the Justice Department's website related to Jeffrey Epstein, including a photo of President Donald Trump one day after they were posted. It's photos of a former president that's getting a lot of attention right now. Newly released photos from the Justice Department show Bill Clinton in a hot tub with another occupant whose face is...
Bill definitely has been thrown under the bus. Big time.
Redacted. It's not clear when or where this event took place. Other photographs show the former president with Michael Jackson and Diana Ross on a plane. Another shows this unidentified woman sitting on his lap. Clinton has denied any wrongdoing through a spokesman. They can release as many grainy 20-plus-year-old photos as they want, but this isn't about Bill Clinton. Never has, never will be.
Bill, let's just have a heart-to-heart for just a second. Bill, you were the president of the United States of America, and you had this man in your White House 17 times that we know of. The man that was responsible for most of those visits died mysteriously, as did a lot of other people that you knew. You are a disgrace to this nation, Bill. And you can sincerely get all the way fucked. Just because it's in the past and you'd rather have the spotlight shown on Donnie doesn't mean that you're not an evil piece of shit that worships Moloch. And I hope you burn with him forever. Sincerely, the American people. That's how we feel about you, Bill. So, put out all the PR statements you want through your press office. We all know who helped you set up your Clinton Global Initiative. We all know who you flew all around the world with, schmoozing, making friends, staring directly into the camera with underage girls on your lap. We all know what you like to do when the lights are off and the doors are closed. You evil piece of shit. And we even have some questions about who might have been servicing Bubba over the years. That's not to mention your hag-ass wife, Hillary Clinton.
Before the photos were released, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles told Vanity Fair she did not think there was anything incriminating about Bill Clinton in the Epstein files.
Oh, Susie. Could anyone look more like a handler than Susie? Just apparently.
Contrary to past statements made by President Trump, Wiles said the president was wrong about that. Democrats accused the White House of stalling.
So he's done everything but deliver on transparency. He's dragged his feet at every juncture this year as
So you hear how it's all just, he did it. No, he did it. No, the Republicans. No, the Democrats. No, Trump. No, Clinton. No, the fucking intelligence agencies. Israel. Let's talk about Israel. How Epstein, Israel, and the CIA, how the Iran-Contra planes landed at Les Wexner's base. Clinton might know something about this. Oh, Stanley Pottinger. The other figure from Epstein's past, Douglas Leese, an arms trafficker, who played a significant role in introducing Jeffrey Epstein into the arms trafficking world in the 80s, that then introduced him to Anand Khashoggi and got him, real dialed in to the black markets, where he quickly moved to money laundering and human trafficking, is described by the Times as a defense contract with extensive connections in the arms industry and the British government. Of course, it could be an extraordinary coincidence that Epstein shared a penthouse with an Iran-Contra lawyer, worked for an Iran-Contra arms dealer, and then, as we report below, moved the Iran-Contra planes to Ohio for use by billionaire retail mogul Leslie Wexner. All of that is detailed by Whitney Webb in One Nation Under Blackmail. It may simply be a coincidence that Ehud Barak, one of Epstein's closest friends, was the head of Israel's military intelligence during the planning for Iran-Contra, and he supervised the CIA's first delivery. But it's not a coincidence. It's what you would call a coincidence. But it might also be something the Times should look a bit closer at if they're so inclined. Whew. Love the fire. Love the fire. How the Iran-Contra planes landed at Les Wexner's base. The Les Wexner that was named as a potential co-conspirator that our own government was looking at doing something about until they decided, nah, cool, bro. That Leslie Wexner. The one who had pedophiles running both of his gigantic corporations in the modeling industry. One for boys and one for girls. Jeffrey Epstein and the Mossad. How this ex-trafficker helped Israel build a back channel to Russia amid Syrian civil war. Oh, look, it's Ehud Barak and Vladimir Putin. This is talking about the leaked emails from former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, which we reported on quite a bit earlier in the year. The trove of emails exchanged at the height of the Syrian civil war between 2013 and 2016 reveal Epstein's successful efforts to secure a private meeting between Barak and Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss a Russian-brokered end to the conflict, including winning Russian support for negotiated removal of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Now, why would a lone P-file be helping the former Israeli Prime Minister / head of military intelligence negotiate arms deals and military deals, geopolitical deals with people like Vladimir Putin? Why would Jeffrey Epstein be involved in that? Just an American Jew, just acting out his own perverted fantasies all alone, with no help, with no intelligence agency backing, certainly without ties to Israel, except for all the military intelligence operations that he helped to create, carry out, supervise, and complete. Jeffrey Epstein pursued Swiss Rothschild Bank to finance Israeli cyber weapons empire. Ariane de Rothschild, we've read through these emails quite a bit. We've reported on them ourselves. We got into a big argument with an Israel shill about how there's not a single correspondence between Epstein and a single Rothschild. Here's a private photograph found in Epstein's New York mansion allegedly showing Ariane de Rothschild with Jeffrey Epstein. They were relatively cozy. They emailed back and forth quite a bit. Anonymous sources informed Bloomberg of a 2015 visit to Epstein's New York mansion by Baroness Ariane de Rothschild, the CEO of Edmund de Rothschild Group, a storied private bank and one of the largest Swiss financial institutions by assets under management. The bank's spokesperson denied any relationship to the notorious American sex trafficker. Epstein was found dead in 2019. Yeah, didn't go so well when the emails came out of them directly corresponding and organizing, financing all of these Israeli tech companies. Jeffrey Epstein helped Israel sell a surveillance state to Ivory Coast in Africa. West Africa, where France is desperately trying to hold on to their ancient empire that they've held for so long. We did a whole stream about the Rothschilds, the French connection, Israel. And how Jeffrey Epstein, just a lone P-file, was dealing arms and trafficking weapons against sanctions, clandestinely, to rebel forces that took over Ivory Coast. And then they installed their guy, whose niece just happened to fly around with Jeffrey Epstein, be trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, and then they managed to secure Ivory Coast and all their resources, all their precious metals. Obviously, just because he was a lone pedophile. All out on his own. What a coinkydink. Jeffrey Epstein helped broker Israeli security agreement with Mongolia. No lie. Bro's just doing it everywhere. A lot of this comes from, not all of it, but a lot of it comes from Ehud Barak's email list as well. Dropsite does a really good job. Ryan and Murtaza do a really good job of combining leaked emails with other reporting, with historical facts, with known geopolitics. Excellent, excellent work on their part. Israeli spies stayed for weeks at a time with Jeffrey Epstein in Manhattan. This is referring to Ehud Barak. In mid-October, the House Oversight Committee released an interview with former U.S. prosecutor Alex Acosta, who told the panel that, contrary to widespread public reporting, he had never told Steve Bannon that Epstein belonged to intelligence. Acosta denied ever discussing Epstein with Bannon and claimed to have no knowledge as to whether he was or was not a member of the intelligence community. Right, bro. Right. This is the fourth piece in this ongoing series. In the first, we exposed Epstein's role in brokering a security agreement between Israel and Mongolia. In the second, set up a back channel between Israel and Russia during the Syrian civil war. And in the third, Epstein's role as a key facilitator of a security agreement between Israel and the West African nation of Ivory Coast. In this one, they examine Ehud Barak's extremely regular schedule of visiting Jeffrey Epstein personally at his homes in the United States. Staying with him, sneaking in and out under disguise, often visiting Epstein once a month on a regular monthly interval for an entire year at one point. Ehud Barak visited Jeffrey Epstein more than just about anyone else, and they corresponded just about daily, about just about everything. But they were very sure to talk over the phone whenever it was about Lord knows what. Certainly not intelligence operations. Certainly not Israeli intelligence operations. Yeah, he worked for the CIA, guys. Obviously, Epstein worked for the CIA with Ehud for the betterment of American interests. Duh. They were funded by Wexner. Clearly for American interests. Ask Jeffrey. Epstein ran Wexner's pro-Israel philanthropy machine. Emails reveal. But Leslie Wexner didn't know anything about it. Epstein stole from him. I'm the victim. For real. For fucking real. This is about the Epstein files that could be unredacted, and they slid a fake Epstein suicide video into the DOJ release. An AI video. They literally slid an AI video into the release showing like a minute of him fake trying to off himself in prison. Because either they're retarded or they think that we're retarded. CGI, not AI? Yeah. Yeah. You get what I mean. I haven't actually watched it yet because cool story, bro. And we're not going to watch it on stream because I don't think they'd like that. Sparks new questions about DOJ oversight because we didn't have any questions to begin with. Right? And we'll leave Penguin for later. Maybe I'll watch Penguin on Twitch stream later. Because actually, shit, there's so much to go through, guys. This is going to be like a 5-hour stream tonight. I hope you got your coffee. I hope you got a beer. I hope you got some eggnog. Mossad, CIA, potato, tomato. I think it's potato, potato, bro. But yeah, you're right. If you read... If you read Legacy of Ashes, note the author, but if you read Legacy of Ashes, you get a very detailed primary sourced account of how those two organizations, this one's all about the CIA, but you can read between the lines. You can kind of fill it in with what you know. You learn about how that relationship was born and how it was born largely out of necessity because the CIA sucked at their effing job. And if you recall, it was the Cold War immediately after World War II. And so America needed to get operatives into all these foreign countries. But everyone can spot a Yank from a mile away. It's hard for a Yank to infiltrate Africa. It's even harder for him to infiltrate Russia or China or North Korea. But it's not as hard for Israel because there's already Jews there. And I mean, call me antiseptic for mentioning dual loyalty, but Israel sure doesn't mind it because it sure helps them out when they're trying to conduct espionage and intelligence operations. And so right from the outset of the founding of the CIA, they relied heavily on Mossad and on Israeli intelligence. And they just started purchasing intelligence from Israel because they couldn't gather it themselves. And stories are mixed. But somehow we wound up with a bunch of fake-ass intelligence about the Soviets. Or Angleton just lied out his teeth all over the place to try to keep his job. But we basically had no effing clue what the Soviets were up to the entire Cold War. And they were stoking all this panic and all this fear as though the Soviets were just like wildly advanced. While meanwhile, the Soviets were just like starving their own people to death and obliterating their own financials and eventually collapsing their own state. And the CIA literally didn't even realize it was collapsing. They thought that the Soviets were like a nuclear superpower right up to the day that it all collapsed. And they're like, oh shit, what? So, you know, read between the lines as you like. But this is old news. It's an old story. A tale as old as time. And the CIA was right intertwined right from the beginning. From long before then. The Jewish mob had blackmail on J. Edgar Hoover way back in the founding of the FBI, before the CIA even existed. And the Jewish mob has been, let's say, doing it for the whole time. And they're still very much alive today. But now, let's just... I mean, we might have actually covered some of this already. Some of the files I've got here. But let's peep this passport, because this passport is very relevant. I gotta take a screen cap of their unredacted one that they had, because mine is redacted. Because, you know, when someone has an official passport that is fake, with a fake name, you know what that means? That means they work for intelligence. Or they work for organized crime that is of the status that it's the same thing. Just the other side of the coin. And we've known this. We already found another Epstein passport long ago with a fake name in it. We didn't, but it was discovered and reported on. But here's apparently a real passport. And then here's a bunch of redacted passports that I can't read Ukrainian. I'm not sure if this is a Jeffrey Epstein passport. It's all redacted. But they're in the files. So it's like, is it a victim's passport that he had taken? Because he was known to do that. Or are they all different Epstein passports for all different nations? Which seems pretty likely. And because we're not getting any transparency, I guess we're just left to speculate. Left to speculate what things like this mean. You know, Jean-Luc. Shame you're not here anymore to answer any questions. Jean-Luc, gay pics. Here they just put Danny Hillis' name straight up. They didn't even redact Danny Hillis' name. Sorry, Danny. Danny Hillis is a historian, archaeologist. He's in the photos. He was attending the EDGE conferences, which we talked about in our last video. Zorro, Africa trip. This is in the files. No context whatsoever. I don't know. Try to send someone else. I have a friend, Scout. She sent me some girls today, but she asked $1,000 per girl. I will send you girls now. Maybe someone will be good for Jay. Name, blank. 18 years old, blank. Height, blank. Measurements, blank. Weight, blank. Departure city, blank. Russia. Because Jeffrey Epstein sourced a lot of his girls from the Eastern Bloc. I already showed you all the CSAM that was not scanned. And it's interspersed in the actual files. It's interspersed with like DVDs marked with redactions and Zorro and Palm Beach and places and names and shit. It's got all kinds of markings like this. It's got the fronts of folders like these. Because Jeffrey Epstein kept binders of all this shit in his house. And they found them all. Oh, hey, Danny Hillis just popped up. Just for the sake of mentioning it, this is Danny Hillis. And we don't know if Danny Hillis did anything wrong. But where have I seen that pose before? I probably shouldn't just scroll these on stream. That probably won't go too well. Because there's some pretty effed up shit in here. For real. Even beyond the redactions. But I'm just going to scroll down to here where we are in the binders that were found, because they scanned every single page basically except for CSAM, but it's right underneath a bunch of like really fucked up photos of girls. So we'll start here. So this is what that section looks like, because it's scanned photos of like out the window of the plane, places, and then it's like boom, CSAM. CDs of information, bunch of photos, bunch of redactions. We're not going to zoom in on most of these because a lot of them are pretty lewd, even through the redactions. Bunch of redactions, bunch of CSAM. And within all these photos, if you pay attention, a number of them are actually photos that we have unredacted in other places, even though they're redacted here. And then a number of them fill in the gaps around the other photos of what like was really going on. And it paints a very dark picture of a lot of CSAM mixed in with a lot of fully redacted pages, with a lot of photo shoots of underage girls, with a lot of like photo shoots of dancers, photo shoots of men with girls, photo shoots of parties, trips they went on, just redactions all over the place. And these were all kept like trophies in binders in his house. And I presume that all the CSAM ones, that not this, but the blue pages, I presume that the blue pages are because there was CSAM in these binders, interspersed with all the rest. And it just goes on and on and on. So Kash Patel had all this evidence. Pam Bondi had all of this evidence all along. All of it. And by law, black boxes are only to appear over victims. And we've got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of black boxes. So, it's all of them. They're all fucking dirty. They're all snakes. They are all belly creatures. And they all deserve your utmost contempt. It's not just the left. It's not just the right. It's not just Trump. It's not just Bill Clinton. It's all of them. It's the whole culture. It's the whole establishment. It's the hierarchy of sin that you must climb to get to a position of power in today's world. And it was established by the synagogue of Satan. Metaphorically speaking, and directly referencing the employer of the man that we're talking about. I'm not saying that it's all the Jews, to be clear. I'm saying that in the black markets, there's all these industries, and they're all fucked up. And they all work together because they all need a money launderer. They all want drugs. Sometimes they all want people. Maybe this guy doesn't traffic guns and he doesn't fuck with that. Maybe that guy doesn't do drugs, doesn't fuck with that. Maybe this person stays out of the human trafficking world. But ultimately, all the black markets are intertwined in one giant symbiotic, sinful relationship. And they have had so many years on top of the pyramid to gain so much power, to corrupt the system so much, that now the system works for them. And at the top of that system is the ultimate lever of control. And these blackmail rings are what you see on the front side. It's the face when you catch a little piece of that system, the system of control. Money and blackmail. And the same people are holding the strings of both. They're not the only ones trying. There's other people that hold a lot of money and hold a lot of power and that collect blackmail, certainly. Anyone can collect blackmail. And I'm sure lots of people do. But it's pretty obvious who's the best at it. And when you look at who owns industries like the porn industry, like Playboy, who's throwing all the parties in Hollywood, who owns all the banks where you're money laundering, there's a pattern that's hard to ignore. That it all comes back to the land of Israel. And it all seems to, behind the scenes, swim upstream to benefiting the nation of Israel. And it's pretty much all one gigantic military intelligence project with many branches, many arms, woven deep into the black markets. Like when the mob, the criminal Jewish mob, helped send weapons to Israel to found Israel. Like when they helped steal nuclear material from America to create the nuclear program over there. Like when they helped blackmail the director of the FBI. Like when they helped blackmail the president of the United States of America. Probably more than one of them. This story is trying to be contained. They are attempting to contain it. But you only have to think a little bit. Just do a little of your own research and ask a couple of hard questions. Like, what really happened on 9/11? And how the fuck do you cover that up? And when you start to think a little bit about that question, and about what we're watching get covered up here, you might realize that, oh, now it's not so hard to imagine how you might cover up 9/11. It just might not have been Americans doing the cover-up. So,